I put out a poll question today that's coinciding with the main topic I want to talk about, and that is Tua's health. So if you do follow me on Twitter, Ryan_Hickey and the number 3. If not, I don't know what you're waiting for. It is grade A material, and guess what? It's free. Doesn't charge you anything. So if you're on Twitter, Ryan_Hickey and the number 3. Even if you don't want to give a follow, I at least hope and ask that maybe if you go to my page, I put a poll up recently, and it's a very simple question. And we'll kind of get through these results as the show goes on. But the poll I just put up right before the show started. Do you trust Tua Tagavailoa to stay healthy enough to be a franchise quarterback? Yes or no? We'll give you those results as the show goes on. I'd love to get your thoughts because I think that's the biggest question, and that's where I want to start. Is can you trust Tua to be the franchise quarterback? And at least we'll look at it at least right now from the angle and from the view of the Dolphins. Should they draft Tua Tagavailoa? And at least to me, I'm going to say no. Overall, the answer is no because the talent is there, and we'll get to that in a second. But the injury history is just as concerning, and there's even more revelations that came out just this past week from a former NFL executive that we'll get into here. But really, the biggest question is it's not going to be talent-wise. I think we all know Tua talent-wise can be a franchise quarterback. The question is going to be, can he stay healthy enough to be a franchise quarterback and a legitimate franchise changer? Whoever's going to draft him, whether it's the Dolphins, maybe the Chargers, a team like the Lions do something crazy, a team like maybe the Jaguars trade up. Whoever drafts Tua is going to expect him, maybe not this year, but definitely at latest next year, to be that guy to take a franchise, be like Patrick Mahomes, be like Deshaun Watson, be like Andrew Luck when he was drafted by the Colts, to be that guy to turn the ship around and get the team ascending towards playoff contention and Super Bowl contention pretty quickly. And like I said, the talent, whether the Dolphins should draft Tua, the talent says yes. In his career, 77 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, in just 2 full years as a starter. Obviously, he filled in a little bit as a true freshman. Obviously, we know the second half of the national championship game a few years ago against Georgia when he came in at halftime and willed Alabama to their 6th national title under Nick Saban. He was the SEC Player of the Year in 2018, consensus All-American in 2018. He also leads Alabama as single-season touchdown leader with touchdowns thrown 43 and career touchdown leader with 87. So we know Tua is extremely, extremely talented, has all the physical tools to be a franchise quarterback. And you look at, kind of the lineage and history of college football, talent-wise, he's easily one of the most talented players to never win the Heisman Trophy. Finished runner-up to Kyler Murray 2 years ago. Obviously, last year he had the injury that ended his season, and he was not invited to New York. But the biggest and the overriding factor, even more important than the talent, and to me, this is even a greater factor as to why, if I was the Dolphins, I would not draft Tua Tagavailoa, is the injury concerns. Right now, documented, he has 5 injuries in the 2+ years he was a starter at Alabama. He broke his finger back in March of 2018. All right, obviously not a big deal. Broken fingers, you can play through those. And it was in spring ball, not a big deal. Sprained his right knee in October of 2018. Didn't miss a game. Wore a brace, little gimpy. You saw, if you remember, in that LSU-Alabama game from 2018 in which Alabama dominated the game from start to finish in Baton Rouge. He was a little gimpy, but they dominated again. I mean, that was just an all-around complete game from Alabama, and they were not hindered or slowed down at all offensively by Tua's sprained knee. He had injured his left ankle back in the SEC title game in 2018. Obviously, he missed no games, but it's also partially because of the break in between the SEC title game and the college football playoff. About 3 weeks. So he had surgery the next day on his ankle, and again, he missed no games, partly because there was a 3-week gap in between the SEC title game and then the college football playoff game. Now, this year he sprained his right ankle against Tennessee. He had the same surgery, the tightrope surgery that he had the year prior. He had after the Tennessee game. He missed 1 game against Arkansas. They did not need him. And obviously, we saw what happened when they played LSU. He exactly didn't look 100%. Came back the timetable was the same from the injury that he had in the December before, so just almost a year before. About 3 weeks, but he definitely did not look 100%, look compromised, and obviously, as we know, the major injury that ended his college career was that dislocated hip against Mississippi State. So we have 5 documented injuries right now through the 2+ years of Tua as a starter. This is where it gets concerning, though, and this is what I was saying about some revelations about even some more injuries that were not reported. Mike Lombardi, who is he is as plugged in for someone who's not currently with a team as possible. He's an executive for many different teams. He currently hosts a podcast called the GM Shuffle Podcast. And last week, he said that when he found out some information that Tua broke his wrist not once but twice. At some point during his career, he did not say dates. All he said was the first time he broke his wrist was at the beginning of spring ball. Then he re-broke it after that. Obviously, either back it was in 2018, 2019, maybe even as a true freshman, it obviously didn't impact him come September because we had no clue about it. This is the first time anyone is hearing about it. Miami Herald went on to report at least that they can confirm that he broke his wrist at least one time. So from all reports are out there, we know at least Tua, on top of those 5 injuries, the sprained knee, left ankle surgery, right ankle surgery, dislocated hip. Apparently he broke his wrist at least once. Mike Lombardi is reporting twice. And this is the concern, because with all these injuries that Tua has suffered through his 2+ years as a starter at Alabama, he's not playing behind a poor offensive line. He's not playing with bad skill guys. He's not the most talented player in his team and being forced to lift everyone on his shoulders and carry a severely less talented team with him. He played at Alabama. The offensive line he had in those 2 seasons, in 2018 and 2019, when he was a starter, both the years, the Alabama offensive line was a finalist for the Joe Moore Award, which is given in college football to the best offensive line. Alabama didn't win it either year, but they were a finalist, meaning they were one of the best offensive lines in all of college football for 2 years in a row. So if he's getting all these injuries behind one of the best offensive lines in college football, not to mention at Alabama, when they produce great offensive linemen, when they have a track record of success, when they breed the sort of pro-style offense that is played in the NFL, or that is played in the NFL, how is he going to stay healthy in the NFL when he's going to a Dolphins team that was horrific, and that's putting it nicely, at protecting the quarterback last year? If he can't stay healthy with a great offensive line, how is he going to be put in front of a makeshift offensive line that basically has filled a lot of projects? And I understand the Dolphins have a lot of draft picks that they can use to shore up this offensive line, but now you're going to put Tua behind a line with a lot of young players and experienced players trying to kind of work together to protect him. The best ability in all of the draft, forget arm talent, forget accuracy, forget quick decision-making, it's availability. And that is Tua's biggest question mark. The question isn't if he can read defenses or make every NFL throw or make good decisions. He is talented enough in the 2 years, and even before the 2 years, in that one game, the national title game, coming off the bench at halftime and leading his team, who couldn't get anything going offensively behind Jalen Hurts, to come in as a true freshman, lead the team to winning a national title on his arm in the second half. He has showed he can come in, handle adversity, make all the right decisions, and do everything that's needed to be a great franchise quarterback. That is not the question here. We are not questioning Tua's ability. We are questioning his availability. And right now, that question is a bigger cloud to me and overshadows his physical talents on the field. And Lombardi, again, who's the person who's plugged in and is saying that Tua broke his wrist 2 separate times, that was not documented, that was not reported during his career at Alabama, also said that at least 2 teams failed Tua's physical. Now, on social media this past week, Tua put out, he had a makeshift pro day. Obviously, with everything going on with quarantining and social distancing, players in the draft cannot have their own pro day, which some doesn't really affect too much. Joe Burrow not having a pro day is not going to affect the Bengals drafting him. Sending with Chase Young for the Redskins at number 2. Those guys are going to be drafted high, whether they had a pro day or not. Obviously, they didn't have a pro day. That's not going to affect them. For a guy like Tua, normally wouldn't affect a guy like this. But because there's so many questions about his hip and just about his health in general, teams want their own doctors to examine him and check him out. Tua is claiming he's healthy. His doctors are claiming he's healthy and that the hip is recovering better than ever. He looked pretty good on his pro day. If you follow Chris Mortensen on Twitter, he put out 7 different tweets of Tua about, it was about 10 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes of Tua's pro day, where he's, shuffling, moving his hips, throwing all over, that he recorded last week. He looked healthy. I mean, it looked good. But to me, the question is not whether Tua is healthy now. I said, I believe his doctors. I believe him. I think Tua is healthy now. But that's not the question. The question is, Can he stay healthy? Can that hip survive 3, 4, 5 seasons in a row of pounding from players that are bigger, stronger, and faster than they were in college, with an offensive line that right now is going to be weaker if he goes to the Dolphins? The question is not if he is healthy right now. It's if he can stay healthy. To me, I don't think so, because he really had it the best case scenario in college, and he still showed he was brittle and still couldn't stay on the field. I don't see that's going to get any better or change when you go in the NFL, and if you go to a team like the Dolphins that had a extremely bad offensive line and extremely poor offensive line last year, that sure, they made a few signings to kind of patch some holes, but for the most part, they have no anchors on that line. They have no franchise guys at any 5 position that can sit there and say, you know what, this is going to be our center, our guard, our tackle for the next 5, 10 years. They don't have that. They're going to need this draft with all the draft picks they have to try to find at least 1, maybe 2 of those guys. So for the first 2 or 3 years of Tua's career in Miami, you're going to put him behind a makeshift offensive line? I don't think the Dolphins, it's worth and it's smart for the Dolphins to draft Tua. They want to go quarterback? Either go all in and try to draft Joe Burrow at number 1, give the Dolphins an offer give the Bengals an offer they can't refuse, or let him go, take Justin Herbert, or even take Jordan Love, whatever one you feel more comfortable with and feel you have a higher upside with, and let Tua go somewhere else and let him play out somewhere else. So let's get your thoughts. If you were the Dolphins, would you draft Tua Tagavailoa? Again, if you're on Twitter, if you want to check out the poll I put on Twitter, my Twitter, Ryan_Hickey and the number 3. That's Ryan_Hickey and the number 3. Do you trust Tua Tagavailoa to stay healthy enough to be a franchise quarterback? So far, again, I put it up just about 15, 16 minutes ago. It is, well, actually, it just changed. Right now, no is leading the way 57%. Yes is 42%. So right now, more people than not think Tua cannot stay healthy and is not healthy enough, cannot be trusted to be a franchise quarterback